we're back again, getting quite regular at this, which is quite good. Things must be quietening down for me a little bit. Anyway, lots to talk about, lots to go through. I'll pre-warn you now, it's going to be a lengthy video. I've got my microphone on. I'm hoping this is going to work out all right. I think I've worked out what the interference was and why it wasn't picking me up so clearly. If you hear a bit of crackling, that's because I've put some really poppy coal on my stove, and it sounds like popcorn going off at the minute. So anyway, let's get into stuff. So laser cut parts, I've had a gang load. I'm trying to get through the axle boxes, which you saw in the last video. We did the covers and drilled the faces and stuff like that. I've got a few done now. That one's in paint at the minute. Well, it's painted and it's ready for the cover to go on and bearings to go in, so that one will be done. I've got 2 covers in the house that have been fully painted, and a bag load of still to do. So what we're going to cover tonight, we'll go through all the laser cut parts I've had. So I've just literally knocked these together. I haven't silver soldered them yet, and that's those bits. These are the corner pieces for the front of the engine, so they go sit behind the buffer beam and go against the frame. So the frames is here, and then the buffer beam goes on that face there, and they sit on the outside of the frame, so they're a visible thing. And on the ends they've got this fancy rib that goes on, and I've basically copied exactly what I saw in the works drawings. You'll notice there's no cutout in here. On Dick Stockings drawings, it's a big lump fabrication out of some, I think it's 40x3 angle or whatever, and then it's got these bits put in, but they've got a big cutout in them. Now my works drawings came through and they didn't have that cutout in, so I've copied what I've seen. But I've seen engines and another works drawing that's got these in, and there's a cutout in it. So there's 2 conflicting things there on the works drawings. As I say, I've not silver soldered those up yet. I'm going to do these parts on the end of there first, and then I'm going to fabricate everything up together and then silver solder the rest. So there's both of those to do now. They've just come through this last week. Then I've got this bag load of gear here. So there's some parts you may recognise, some you won't. It's basically, all this is going to be the rear drag box fabrication for the engine, and the start of the actual brake actuated arm underneath it. There's some more here. So we've got side plates for the drag box, we've got end plates for the drag box, there's rubbing plates in there, there's outer support angle brackets there which need those bits pushing out of them. I've left them in the bags because they've got a nice coat of oil on them and it'll stop that dreaded rust. We've got that bit, well there's 2 bits in there, there's a top and a bottom, and then there's this ring you can see floating about here. That's for the top of the brake cylinder that's there. So there's loads of bits for me to crack on with, or to get on with. There's also this piece that I've had cut as well. I'll turn it the right way up, it should sit that way up. This is the foot plate support piece, and it fits above. Let me just get this. It sits above. There's your drag beam, it sits above it there, but it overlaps in the back. Now, published drawing from Dick Stockings, it sits above it like that, and then there's a 1/2 inch piece, 1/2 inch strip that connects the 2. And as you can tell on full size, it's not like that. They actually sit that way on. So this sits your side as I'm looking at it now. And that's why it's got these 2 cutouts, one there and one there, and that's for the frames, where the frames end, because obviously the frames are the same, the back is the same height as this, so that sits in there like that. And then obviously the drag box fits in this gap that's here. There's a big gap along there. If I bounce the light off it there, like you can see that. So that's what that is. So that's to go on. I'm not worried about that bit yet because obviously I'm not at that way on in the engine. There's still lots to do. But what I'm thinking with that is I need to get, you can buy 6mm C channel brass. I need to get a long piece that goes all the way along there, because what happens with that, on the full-size engine, the footplate boards, the wooden boards, actually slot into it and they're pushed out to the outside, so you build it from the middle outwards, and they slot in, there's a gap in it, they slot in and then they push the boards outwards and build them up, the planking. So I need to source that, I think it's 6mm by 1mm thick, and it's brass C channel, because I need to attach it to that first, but also as well as I need to make 4 fancy little hinges for the full plate. So there's lots to do with that part as a fabrication. One that I received, I didn't show it in the last video, there's that one as well, that's the front rubbing plate. So if you imagine your front buffer beam, this goes in here like so. The slots obviously marry up, so that's where that goes. So there's loads of parts come. I kind of like pre-ordered loads of things to keep me very busy, especially when it comes up to the quieter months of Christmas and everything like that. I've got plenty to chew at, plenty to go on with. I haven't cleared my lays down at the minute to get on with the brake hanger brackets for the tender. So the tender frames are still all together. I'm not, I want to get the axle boxes ready, get the frames apart, then I can kind of snowball everything one after another, and then get the tender frames back together, completely together. But there's lots to do in the frames, the actual frame plates especially, even though all the drag beams and boxes and stretches and everything are all done, there's loads to do in the frames, loads of detail to add, you know, and obviously there's wheels to sort out and everything like that, so there's lots to go on with. So what we're going through and what I'm going to show you, what I'm going to film tonight, I won't have my microphone on for that part, but I'll try and talk through it as best I can when I'm doing it. And that's the stretcher, the vertical stretcher for the loco. Now previously I did it, I had it all obviously TIG welded ready for what we're doing tonight, to silver solder it all up, and it's all to do with to make it look like it's welded together. So we're going to do that now, and I did get asked the question, so I'll just go through this with you. I got asked the question, and it's kind of fired something back in my head. Why are you going through very narrow stretches and stuff like that? And it's all come about not only because I want to copy the full size, but also because of a chap, a lot of you may already know of him, and that's a chap called Doug Hewson. Now Doug Hewson, with ground level 5-inch gauge stuff, detail was followed pretty much bolt for bolt, rivet for rivet. Everything was done, you know, as he got drawings for it and he copied it. This kind of spurred that on. It was a bit of inspiration for what he did with his standard 4. If you've ever seen one of his standard 4 tank engines, the workmanship that went into it when he did it, and he did the write-up in Engineering in Miniature, and it inspired me, and that was years ago, and it inspired me back then, which kind of knocked on to when me and my dad did the previous class 2. But with this one, I've kind of gone a step further. So, and when I was watching what he did in the write-ups in Engineering in Miniature, I read it and stuff like that, but kind of what he was doing didn't really sink in at all. And I thought, you know, there must be someone out there like me that can read an article and it's like, yeah, of my head type of thing. So what I thought with this video is basically, if I'm thinking down that route of, if I can see what's gone on, I'll understand it better. So that's what has fired me on to doing this video tonight with the vertical stretcher, because he would do exactly the same. He'd have it all laser cut and make a real complex fabrication, and then he would solder it together, and he'll do it bit by bit. And I used to think, well, what stops it falling apart? Because as soon as you get it to a temperature, the silver solder at the other end of whatever you're heating up is going to fall apart. And it's over time that I've experienced things and done things in my own way and learnt from mistakes. And then I think, right, if I had a video out there of how I'm doing it and showing that it, you know, it clearly works, you can do it. Yes, you are going to have to learn from your own mistakes. There's no two ways about that. So you might think, well, what Gavin did didn't work for me at all and I've made a right hash of it. You have and you haven't. You've made a hash of it, but you've learned a lesson and go, right, okay, I need to attack that in a different way. But the principle's the same. So the end result comes out. So that vertical stretcher, TIG welded the ends and the top support pieces, top and bottom. And then I'm going to finish it off with silver solder to add strength to it, but also to make it look like it's been welded in the corners. That's where we're going tonight. So, as I said, no microphone on for this bit because the blowtorch will kind of, well, I don't want to singe it for a start because it's going to get very hot. The fire bricks are going to get very hot, and I don't want to, if I start swearing, I don't want to pick up any of those swear words, as daft as that sounds. So that's where we're going to go. Enjoy this bit and then we'll reconvene at the end. Right, hope you can see what's going on here. So I've just got the blowtorch running. Hope you can still hear me. I haven't got any microphone or anything on at the minute. So I'm going to start in this corner over here, even though that metal's bigger there. I'm going to start in this corner here. I've turned the artificial light away from it. I want to see what the metal's doing. This is just bubbling away to itself quite happily. All the water out of it. Just warming it all the way along around that end as well. Turning colour, so it's starting to warm up now. Got a pair of thin nose pliers at the side for when I want to spin it round. Before that you should touch in your solder when your flux turns to a water, like a pure liquid. I tend to go a little bit beyond that, and I wait until the actual steel starts to glow. zing and it disappears wherever the flux is. Steel gets hot around it, it's going to disappear altogether. Here it goes. And it'll shoot off where the flux has been applied. In the corner there to send it back on itself to where I wanted it. Pulling the torch away a little bit, not to concentrate it too much in one spot. thing I do as a bit of a miss it, if I get a pool that's sitting, what I'll end up doing is I'll just knock it off after it's all been pickled and everything. It seems to be running okay. There's one little pool right on the very tip of it that's not gone where I wanted it to. Having it there messing the job up. And that's it done. So, what I'm going to do now, you'll notice there's this tub here, just there, has got some acid in it, some citric acid. So what I'm going to do is just going to pick it up and drop it in it, not using my hands because it's obviously red hot. So we'll leave that a minute now to cool down, and then I'll flip it over, flux up the other side and carry on. Okay, what I was just doing there, just doing the second side, or the second end, and I was doing the back side of it there, ready for dropping in here. And the reason I didn't show you on the first one, because I completely forgot, to be fair. So what I've done is I've spun it round and done the back edge, and the reason I've done the back side of it is because the heat is being deflected. It's not going all the way round, it's not heating the steel fully all the way through. The silver solder hasn't run from the one side across to the other, so I've turned it round and just zipped across the back of it with a bit of silver solder, but I've done it on the second end for you to see it, just to see where I'd been with the solder and everything. So now that's, both ends are done. That's just going to get a full pickle all the way round, whiz it up with the Dremel wheel, wire wheel. So I just plonk that in all together, zip it up with a wire wheel, and then I'll do the two top ribs along the top of it, which I won't film that bit because you'll know what that looks like. And then once I've done that, then it's ready for them to be fully cleaned up on there. Once it's all cleaned up, I can whack it in the milling machine, just skim the ends to make sure they're still true, and then check it in the engine, make sure it's in the engine frames okay, and to 6 1/16 width across it. It should do, because it was pretty close before, ready for me to skim it. It doesn't look, from what I've seen, it doesn't look like it's lost anything. So the next bit you'll see on this now will be when it's completely finished, and I'll film it, holding it up in front of you. Right, what do you reckon? Pulling solder in one or two bits, but also using the flame to move the solder as I did it. Using the flame, for me, has come with a bit of experience, especially with that long horizontal stretcher that I did for the engine. Starting at one end and working its way along, the heat of the torch is obviously getting one end red hot, and it's also warming up the other bit as it's going along. I'm not saying that is the right way or wrong way or anything like that. What I'm saying is that works for me. So before anyone starts jumping down my neck about it, remembering about heat deflection, you know, I had to spin it round and I had to run the back of it, because obviously there's a plate of steel in the way when it's stood vertically, and heat, even though it is making it all red hot, it's not getting all of it red hot because the backside isn't getting the full blowtorch. So that's why I spun it round and started putting that run on the front, on the back of it, as it were, as we were looking at it. Spun it round and did that. This top and bottom ribs, they're very straightforward, because the ends have already done the silver soldered up. It's had a pickle. It's quite a structure. It was quite a structure TIG welded, but it's quite a structure when it's had the solder in as well, and it's become very rigid. And the other thing that I did as well, after it had all cooled down and everything, I give it a bit of a tap to see what noise it was making. If it sounds dead anywhere, and when I say dead, it doesn't make a ting noise, that means that it's something that isn't bonded correctly. So I give it a bit of a tap with a spanner, just to see what it's doing. So I hope you find that bit of it interesting. Obviously there's going to be someone out there that will do it differently to me, but that worked for me, and that's what I saw, or that's what I saw in a write-up that Doug Hewson did. Was he would get a fabrication and you use a bit of iron wire to hold things in place, and then he'd do a bit, and I don't know if he did a bit and then pickled it and then did a bit and then pickled it, and that's the bit I didn't see, and I certainly didn't read it, you know, because if he did that, the article would be pages, it would fill the whole magazine up. But that's what's worked for me, and I always try to understand what the step brazing was, or step silver soldering and stuff like that, and it's basically doing it in bits the way I've done it. You can't really go wrong, providing you get those surfaces nice and clean after. So I've done one end, pickled the whole lot, wire wheel out, wire brush, get into all the corners, give it a right good clean, reflux everything, and then start again, being very careful not to burn the flux off. So you'll notice when I started doing it, when I was getting towards the other end, I was burning the flux, because obviously I'm not chasing it quick enough. I'm not getting the whole thing quick enough. You could use probably a bigger propane torch and go quicker across it and get it hotter, the whole lot hotter. Or you could do oxypropane, or maybe oxyacetylene, you know, and direct it really close. But you've got to worry about distorting it. At the end of the day, that stretch is only 1.5mm steel and 2mm steel thick, so you've got to be careful, you know, if you put too much heat into it too quickly, it'll bend like a banana and you're back to square one. So I've done it how I've done it, you know, but obviously you've got to be careful of burning that flux off. If you don't get it right, you know, by the time you get there, there's no flux for the silver solders to run, and at that point then you've got to mezzo pickle it and start again and reflux the area that you need to do. So before we sign off, I'm going to show you how it looks at the moment. Yes, for those of the untrained eye, I have pre-done it, pre-filmed it, done the start of this video and done the end of this video, so it's already in primer. I pre-filmed it the other day, so there we are. It's in primer at the moment, and it looks bang on, just how I wanted it to. So the ends have had a skim off, an emery paper, and it's now ready for, well, it's not ready for it yet, but it'll be ready for a bit of undercoat red on there. Yes, it already fits the frames. I've already checked the frame width, I've already checked the width of that. It's 6 1/16 wide, so that's going to fit. This long horizontal stretcher bolts to that, so they'll be two bolted together, and then I'll check the whole lot for squareness to make sure it's all running dead straight the length of the engine. Well, it's not the length of the engine, but pretty much half of the engine. Make sure it's all nice and straight, and then that bit can be signed off, and I can move on to buffer beams and drag boxes and everything like that. Horn excuse me, horn guides, wheels, motion brackets. There's so much to do, but as I said in one of my posts, it's a journey, not a race. I'm not in a hurry to build this engine. I build this engine as I can. It's been on the go, what, 2 years now? I think I started drawing probably 3 years ago, physically cutting metal and silver soldering metal together a year maybe. I'll have to look back past old pictures and do a throwback Thursday. Probably a year of actually getting metal bolted together and stuff like that, maybe a bit longer, I'm not sure. But if it's been 2 years, there's a lot here in 2 years for the little time that I've been popping in and out of the workshop. So yeah, that's where we're up to. Next time, who knows where we'll be, who knows what I'll have fabricated together. But thanks ever so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, thumbs up, tell your friends, get them model engineering. It's not an overnight process. You won't do it overnight, but what you start building, when you start building it up, it starts to look pretty impressive, and you'd be like, doff your cap to anyone that has a crack at doing this, because it's bloody good fun. I enjoy it, and that's the main thing. That's why we do it. We enjoy it. Probably enjoy building more than running. Jury's out on that. See you next time. Ta-da.